Have you gone into the whole George Floyd story at all? Have you ever looked at what they actually did to him? For it's a combination of things. Like what the cop did was horrible, but also he was dying. You know, most people probably, if they did that to you, you probably would have lived. You know, that guy had an
That was
enlarged
my
heart.
understanding
He
of it,
was
yeah.
fucked up, but that cop did lean on his neck, which is always interesting to see people try to minimize that. You know, I'm always you gotta be able to just say what it is.
Well, that situation can be ugly in a multitude of ways.
Yes.
Right. That's when things get, that's when it's very difficult to pick your moral pathway forward. All your choices are not good.
Yes.
Right.
Which is oftentimes the case when it comes to conflicts, right?
Yes.
Conflicts are very complicated, and people want it to be binary. They want there to be a good guy and a bad guy, and that's oftentimes not really the case.
Well, it's hard to organize yourself for combat unless you are quite convinced that you're the good guy. So there's a default to that dichotomy that's a necessary part of, even standing your own ground, right? Because otherwise you get demoralized. And so I suppose people, when they're threatened, they default to a simple narrative, and because you can't defend yourself. In some ways, it's very hard to defend yourself, especially physically or militarily, without a pretty cut and dried narrative.
Well, especially military operatives, you know, you have to have a very your life and the people that you're with, their life depends on you not having any confusion about whether or not it's morally correct to be doing what you're doing. That's why they like to break it down to kill bad dudes, you know, kill bad dudes. Real simple. Let's go. They tell us what to do, we do it. Which is what you want to stay alive, you want your teammates to stay alive, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, well, you never know when doubt will cause a fraction of a second difference in reaction time.
Oh, yeah. That's always the thing with physical altercations with people, too. You know, oftentimes people get sucked into these things where they're not sure whether to act or not act, and that's when they get in trouble.
Right.
You know.
Right. That's probably true in life. You don't want to oversimplify things, too, but once you've made a decision, that's when it's necessary to put doubts behind you, because otherwise you just act in half measures.
Yeah, and oftentimes you have to have done the wrong thing before, like failed to act or hesitated to act, and it cost you. And then you have to learn that lesson. It's very difficult to know that without experiencing mistakes. You know, you have to have failed to act and then realize, I should have done something there.
Yeah, well, I think that's partly too. One of the things that I often faced in my clinical practice and with the students that I mentored was this confusion about acting. I don't know what to do, so what should I do? Well, nothing. I'll wait around until I figure out what to do. It's like, no, you should put together a bad plan and you should implement it, because even if you fail in the implementation, you'll gather information and then you can rectify the plan.